I'm Ambrose Richardson. I'm the recent past president of the Sons of the Revolution in the state of New York. We own and maintain Florence's Tavern. I'm also the vice president of the Lower Manhattan Historical Association, which is a combination of groups that celebrate the rich history of this area. We're here on July 9th, which is a special day in Bowling Green, the oldest park in America, which has so many things associated with it. July 9th especially was the date when the Declaration of Independence was read at the order of George Washington to people in New York, to his troops, at the Commons, which is now City Hall Park. And the listeners to this declaration were so inspired that they went marching down Broadway to Bowling Green and tore down the statue of George III, which had been erected in appreciation for his support during the French and Indian War. Here in the center of the park was precisely where the enormous statue of George III was sitting, but it didn't last beyond July 9th. 1776, because the Sons of Liberty and various excited members of the militias and the Continental Army marched down Broadway and tore down the statue, broke it up. The lead was melted into musket balls that were subsequently used for the American soldiers. But there are a lot of memories. The event is recorded in famous paintings and whatnot. But this was a spirited start to the revolution. People who listened to the Declaration of Independence were really excited that this was finally the time when the United States came together and asserted that they were going to stand up to the tyrannical British nation. And the statue was melted down to use for bullets for the Americans. It's appropriate that happened here because, in my view, the American Revolution actually started right here in New York in 1765. The Stamp Act riots took place here at the same time as the Stamp Act Congress, which came to New York. The Sons of Liberty, for their flag, has 9 red and white alternating stripes signifying the 9 states that attended the Stamp Act Congress. And that was the beginning of the correspondence between the states in order to support their resistance to British taxation. Most people don't connect New York very much to the revolution, but the reality was New York was the center of gravity of the revolution. It was the fulcrum. It's the place where the British had their headquarters because they wanted to control the Hudson River. They wanted to be able to move north or south. Washington positioned himself upstate. We had a celebration. We have a celebration each year of the Battle of Brooklyn in August, when it was the largest amphibious landing in history up to that point. Nearly 40,000 British troops overwhelmed the Americans, and the Americans barely survived to fight another day. It's when the Americans didn't lose the revolution. And in fact, 2/3 of the American patriots who died in New York, either in the prisons or prison ships or on the battlefields. About 1/3 of the battles were in New York. So this is, as I said, the center of gravity. You know, once the war got started, this was where the action was centered, where the British troops were centered, where the American troops were focused. And New York progresses so quickly, it's such an economic engine, but because it's a centrally located, a central port, a business center, it had the same importance from 1776 to 1783 that it does today. So New York and the American Revolution are something that are very closely related, and you know, New York played just a crucial, pivotal role during that period. Currently over at Florence's Tavern Museum, which is one of the oldest revolutions of museums of the American Revolution, we have an exhibit on Washington spies. The museum was created with funds from the grandson of Benjamin Talmadge, Washington's spy master. And included among these people are one of my favorite spies, which is a fellow named Hercules Mulligan. You just can't do better than that name. They have him as a featured player in the Broadway show about Alexander Hamilton. And Hercules Mulligan recruited Hamilton to the Sons of Liberty. He lived with the Mulligan family for a while. Hercules was an immigrant from Ireland, but he was a very articulate guy, attended King's College, and was persuaded to stay behind after the British invaded and became a tailor for the British officers. And he was able to gain intelligence which was taken to Washington or Washington's assistance via his close associate Cato, who is shades of the Pink Panther. Cato, after the war, we believe, was manumitted, he obtained his freedom. Hercules Mulligan became a vestryman of Trinity Church and was a founder of the New York, I think, Emancipation Society then. Literally a giant of a man. In front of the Alexander Hamilton Customs House, which is the site of the former Fort George. And it's appropriate for multiple ways, not just because Hamilton created the Coast Guard and collected the customs at the beginning of our nation, but also Hamilton was part of the group which stole the cannons from Fort George in 1775 when the Sons of Liberty had essentially taken over the city. Hamilton, so the story goes, he was so well dressed by Hercules Mulligan that he was immediately noticed by George Washington, who quickly became aware of Hamilton's sharp intellect, and ultimately Washington recruited Hamilton to be one of his assistants. Hamilton, of course, is one of the founding fathers, not just of the American Republic, but also New York, being a founder of the Bank of New York, and the financial system that successfully launched the American Republic in 1789. He wrote his papers on the assumption of the debt and skillfully managed American growth during the period when he was Secretary of the Treasury, to the extent that the practices that he put in place were carried on by Albert Gellick, and the United States, which could easily have collapsed economically, was able to sustain its existence as a viable nation. But I want to point out that there are so many sites around New York City that are historic, related to the Revolution, that are related to events that took place after that. But from New York's first settlement in the 1620s, through the commercial development, and especially its fast development after the Erie Canal made New York a center place. There's just so much that occurred, so much that is occurring. It's constantly growing, it's constantly renewing itself. But if you want to see what's new and you want to see what's historic, New York is the place to go.